Democrats moving to fast track President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief package. For more on that, we want to bring in Senator Bill Cassidy. He is a Republican from Louisiana. And we're also joined by Yahoo Finance DC reporter Jessica Smith. And Senator, it's great to speak with you here on Yahoo Finance Live. You were among the group of 10 Republican senators who met with President Biden earlier this week. How did your conversation go with the president? And I guess, how optimistic should we be at this point that lawmakers will reach some sort of bipartisan deal?
So it's kind of a nuanced answer. On the one hand, it went well. He was very cordial, wanted to interact, said that their staff would send things for us to look at, suggesting that there would be a follow-up meeting. Now, I focused on education because there was a big gap between what they are requesting and what we offered. What they sent to us, we kind of researched what they're doing, and it all relates to the situation 8 months ago, not the situation now. And it requested more than even the references themselves referenced, like 50 billion instead of 35 billion as an example. So I'm not sure how his staff is serving the president. I think the staff has a different perspective than the president as regards what to ask for and how much to work together. If that's the case, then maybe we should not be optimistic. I'd rather be optimistic, but I'm not sure.
Hi, Senator. Jessica Smith here. I guess when you look forward, then what is the next steps? I know your staffs have been talking to each other, but what comes next if you don't think you're on the same page here?
We're replying to what he sent to us, kind of outlining the differences that we have. I think that will kind of show, are we going to go yet another step? And the reason I say that is that I think we can. There's press reports. I think the New York Times today said, well, his staff does not think we would work with him, so therefore why bother? Just go ahead and shove it through. But I'll point out, we've passed multiple COVID relief packages with President Trump and a Republican Senate on a bipartisan basis allocating trillions of dollars. So if there's an area which we've proven we can work together on a bipartisan basis, this is it. And the president was so articulate in his inaugural speech, asking for unity and bipartisanship. I'd like to think we could take it seriously.
I did want to ask about one of the proposals that your colleague put out today. Senator Romney put out a proposal calling for anywhere from $250 to $350 a month for each child, giving parents that amount each month. What do you think about that? And do you think that is an opening to find some agreement here?
We'd have to see if we've obviously been very generous to the American people. I calculated that if you look at the transfer payments, a family in Louisiana would have received with 2 children who have been unemployed since March of last year, going through March of this year, assuming the Biden proposal goes through. Depending on how you value a couple of things, they would have received anywhere from $70,000 to $110,000 in basically tax-free benefits. So there's been a lot of support for the American families. This is a finance show, so if you look at savings rates, they're up. If you look at credit card delinquency, it's down. And so the American people have used this money wisely to pay down the debt. And that's true across all income quintiles. Whatever extra support we need, I would like to look at in that context.
Senator, it's Adam Shapiro. Good to see you. I want to switch to the Keystone XL pipeline because the new administration has put the project on hold for, quote, review. And I was curious why that project is even necessary now in an era where we export oil, but where we're seeing the major car manufacturers, GM, they're going all electric by 2035. So why would we need that oil project?
So you kind of connected the answer in your statement. Even if we go all electric, which is kind of going to be very difficult because there's so many legacy vehicles, even imagining that we could do it from 2035 beyond, the rest of the world will be using petroleum. And we export it. Turns out we can take that crude in Canada and in the most environmentally sensitive way, refine it into something which is a product which can be used elsewhere. We had an energy committee hearing yesterday, and one of the experts pointed out The United States uses the highest environmental standards to process and to develop oil and gas reserves. Other countries do not. If we don't export, other countries will. They will use their environmental standards, not ours. And greenhouse gas emissions increase because we're not actually doing something on our behalf. Lastly, I will say, it certainly creates American jobs, North American jobs, for us to do this. I'd rather create North American jobs than jobs in, say, Russia or Iran. Why do we strengthen their economy and weaken ours when there's a product globally that's going to be on demand for, again, multiple decades?
Senator, I want to ask you about the impeachment trial that's set to begin next week, just to get your view just on President Trump's role in the January 6th attack, and also whether or not you've made up your mind on how you're going to vote.
And, I'm doing this year what I did with the first impeachment trial. Seems kind of crazy to make a statement like that. But I said back then I would be objective going in, weigh the facts, and make a decision. Everybody pushes you one way or the other, but I try to, as a juror should, be objective. Similarly, this time I'm being objective. I'm going in willing to hear the evidence on both sides. The president is being accused of having a role in that riot. His defense, presumably, will focus on saying why that is not true. So I look forward to hearing the testimony, and we'll kind of reserve judgment until I do.
Senator, I wanted to go back to stimulus really quickly. We know that the $15 minimum wage is a big push, but obviously your party has problems with that. We have heard from a couple of people who said maybe they'd support something lower than 15. Is there any minimum wage hike that you would consider supporting in this relief package, maybe if it's not quite 15?
So there's two things going on here. There is the context in which we pass it, and then there's the absolute amount. I could be open to a graduated increase of the minimum wage to a certain point, but not in the middle of a pandemic. When you have restaurants who are just barely hanging on, and if they suddenly have their fixed costs raised for their labor base, they go out of business. Now, the CBO, or I think CBO has estimated like 1 million jobs plus lost if you raise minimum wage to $1 million. I mean, to $15, but that is not in the middle of a pandemic. If you do that raise in the middle of a pandemic, intuitively, it's going to be far more than $1 million. Are we about jobs? Or are we about creating unemployment? We should be about preserving jobs. And so at this point in time, we need to preserve jobs. These are not empty threats. K-Paul is an iconic New Orleans restaurant. It's where blackened redfish came from. Now we blacken everything. It has shut its doors forever. I've read as many as 25% of all restaurants will go out of business. This is very real. So we can debate raising the minimum wage, and I'm open to those debates. But in this context, we're trying to keep employers employing people, not putting them out of business, unemploying people.
Senator Bill Cassidy, Republican from Louisiana, we really, really appreciate you taking your time, and we hope to have you back on Yahoo Finance Live soon. Thanks so much. And of course, our thanks to Yahoo Finance's DC reporter, Jessica Smith.